Hi all, I have another very exciting notable game for you today, again from the World Cup which is currently on. In round 2.1, Gadir Guseinov was playing Super Grandmaster David Navara. Gadir Guseinov is an Azerbaijan Grandmaster, so Azerbaijan, Baku is one of the main cities in Azerbaijan, so doesn't have to travel far I think to this tournament. Perhaps. He was a Grandmaster back in 2002 in fact. He was actually born in Moscow. In 1994 he won the European Under-10 Championship. His opponent David Navara, Czech Republic champion 6 times, Super Grandmaster now. He was an IM back in 1999, GM in 2002. Same year actually as his opponent, Gadir. And yeah, he's one of the highest rated players in the world, in the top 20 at the moment. So let's see what happened. Gadir kicked off with e4, and we saw the Ka1 from David Navara, and this is a very mainline looking Ka1 the way it happens. Knight d2, d takes, knight takes, and the main move here is bishop f5, knight g3, bishop g6. And we see h4 here, h6, knight f3. By the way, a little side note of trivia for you. I was surprised actually I think Ian Rogers, the Grandmaster Ian Rogers, has indicated this knight f3 might be a slight inaccuracy. This move order here, there might be knight h5, which apparently is equal for black. It's just a little bit of trivia if you're interested in this line. So playing h4 before knight f3 is interesting. So knight f3, knight d7, h5, bishop h7, bishop d3, black took, queen takes, e6. Standard stuff, very theoretical, very well trodden. Now here players with black can choose between queen c7 and bishop e7. Nearly 2,000 games each for these. Bishop e7 was played, knight e4, knight takes, queen takes, knight f6. All pretty theoretical so far. Now here usually players with white play queen e2. Another move played quite a bit though is queen d3. And black often castles here. Now maybe there was a slight concern because it looks as though if black castles, it looks as though the move g4 could be dangerous. And in the modern age of computers, you know, this kind of thing is a bit scary to sack the pawn. You know, who knows what white has prepared here. But yeah, it does seem as though like this is the main move, g4, and castling here is the main move. But actually, David Navara played c5, perhaps wanting white played for the check, which is meant to be about equal. But white played king b1, and it's here we have c takes d4, knight takes d4, and now black castled. And there's a very interesting move in this position, very interesting, which creates a curious imbalance of material in the position. I wonder if you can guess it if I give you 5 seconds. You might want to pause the video and come back in 5 seconds starting from now. Okay, the move was bishop takes h6. Quite surprising, because it looks like, you know, we've had a lot of opening theory here, and now just after the opening, bishop takes h6. So what's the idea? Well, if it's ignored, there's going to be trouble with queen g3. So it's taken, and the idea is still queen g3 check. And here, can you guess? Okay, knight takes e6, which is a double attack. Queen g7 mate and taking the queen. So black goes for 3 pieces for the queen. He takes on e6, and he's collected basically a rook and 2 minor pieces. But now white is in a position, he's currently 2 pawns up, he's in a position to do a double attack to get another pawn. So we have a fantastically interesting imbalance going on. It's 3 pawns now. The thing is white's king safe enough? What if these guys start cooperating like a team? So bishop f6, the start of potential cooperation here. Obviously you don't want to take this pawn because that would accelerate an attack. White safeguarded the f pawn with f3, so that future f file. Now knight e7 was played, trying to get the bits out and about, even if it costs a pawn potentially, because knight d5, stuff like this, knight d5, it starts to look a little bit as though there's coordination here. But white plays another double attack, this time getting another pawn. So bishop g7, queen takes e6. So white has been collecting quite a few pawns. He's now 4 pawns up, but it's queen versus rook and 2 pieces. Knight d5 though, the knight is pretty energized, and black is now threatening very dangerously. Rook f6 to b6. So white has to play a series of very careful prophylaxis type moves to try and reduce the impact of black's incoming potential threats. And this first move is c3. This makes it a little bit safer, this diagonal for rook f6, b6. That the white king is given the option potentially of king c2. So if we look at this, for example, now rook f6, rook b6 is otherwise really dangerous. If the king was forced to go here, then bang, knight takes c3 and black's better. The king's getting in serious trouble. Can't say he's going to get mated. So yeah, c3 is very clever prophylaxis, giving the king the c2 square if needed. So we have rook f8 instead, changing tack to crash down the e file. Queen f5, rook e2. Now the danger is bishop takes c3 now, with at least a perpetual check or worse. White now parries this with rook c1. It looks like a strange move to play, but he's trying to stop the effectiveness of these threats, prophylaxis, at the cost of sacking the g pawn though. So black has taken a pawn back finally. 3 pawns though. White is up 3 pawns now. And here we see a3, which gives the king more options if needed. Knight a2, b5, and it's very complex, this position. Queen f7. Black was really trying to coordinate his team of pieces. Knight f6. Queen b7, which not only hits b5, but this diagonal might actually be useful. And that would actually protect b2. So if rook d2, white would be prepared to give up the queen for 2 rooks. So in fact, black protected the pawn. And then we see f4, which creates the potential for putting pressure on g2, clearing that diagonal. King h7. And now rook e1 carries its own threat of rook e5, trying to exploit that kind of skewer to leave black's pieces hanging. The rook's double, giving up the b5 pawn. Black really doesn't want to take on b2. Knight d5. Now the incoming threat here would seem to be bishop takes c3 immediately. Very dangerous. Now the king cleverly sidesteps here. Bishop takes c3. This scenario now does look really dangerous. If knight takes c3, then there's check. This is a killer check, actually mating. So that's not good enough. And I think bishop takes c3. Let's just actually check bishop takes c3 in this position. Why doesn't this work? Here actually, queen d7 check. And then if here, then rook e8 check, and then white can actually take on c3 or play rook takes g8, and it's safe enough apparently. And if rook g7 here, then there's queen f5. So it's black's attack is not quite working. Yeah, it gets refuted. So that clever sidestepping move gives white the breathing space to defend here after king a1. So knight takes, there's the check, and that mating is mentioned. So king a1 for the moment. Let's turn that off. Interruption. Rook gf2 was played. Queen E8 heading for G6. Black defends G6 with knight takes F4. But we have this check, and check getting to the time control move 40 with this. But now Queen F5 at move 41, threatening Rook E8. So black parries that. It has to go backwards now to defend. Queen B5 again. There's a threat now of Rook E8 check. Black plays Rook D5, trying to defend against Rook E8 and Queen F5, but there's still check here now, and it starts to be a little bit dangerous, believe it or not, for the black king. Now after Queen C4, Queen E4 checks, a major threat. This pawn is actually part of White's attacking team of 3 here, and it's taken off, but did it give itself up in vain? Check, not really. Rook E7, the bishop is attacked, it's resourcefully defended with check, making way that square, giving that square for the knight, but it doesn't help actually. Check here forces basically the win of the bishop after check. Queen takes G7, and here Rook B7 just defending, and black here threw in the towel. David Navara threw in the towel. Very, very exciting game. Congratulations to Guseinov. So playing in his home place basically, he must be very proud of this game against a super grandmaster. So for him, I think an immortal game. For other people, an exciting, notable game, fantastically interesting material and balance, and it's a very surprising move, almost straight after the opening theory. This bishop takes H6. So I thought that was an interesting game to show you. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.